at 5:05. With that, that brings us to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Lefever. Here. Mrs. Amarillas. Here. Mr. McGivern.
Here.
Mrs. Allen. Mr. Osterby.
Here. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see that. Okay, so with that, we need to elect our new governing board officers for 2024.
Do we nominate? Yes. I nominate Drew McGivern to continue as president. Oh, I'm sorry, not Drew, not Drew, you, Steve.
Well, you said continue.
Sorry.
Long ride, huh?
I know, I've been thinking of Drew from way back then. I nominate Steve Osterly, correction, to continue being president. Maybe.
I'll second it.
Drew's like, yeah, I'll second it.
Did you notice Drew was? Maybe Drew wants to be president. Okay. I think we have to vote.
Okay, so we'll do a vote, please. Roll call.
Mrs. Lefever.
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas.
Yes.
Mr. McGivern.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen. Mr. Osterby.
Yes.
No.
And with that, I will nominate Mrs. Kelly Allen to continue as secretary.
I second.
Any discussion?
Mrs. Lefever.
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas.
Yes.
Mr. McGivern.
Yes.
Mrs. Allen. Mr. Osterby.
Yes. Thank you.
Ms. Allen, I know that you are ill and you're going to be disconnecting with us, but we have a little something for you in honor of Governing Board Appreciation Month. So hopefully you'll be better so you can stop by, okay? Give us a call. Okay, thank you and congratulations on another year of serving as clerk. We appreciate it. Okay, thanks. We'll be in touch.
Just for the record, Kelly's deathly ill, so she called in. Okay, so that we go into our override election study session. So Roxanne, I'll throw it over to you.
Okay, so we do have Erica here, Erica Coombs from Piper Sandler, to lead our discussion. We also have Paul Olin on the line, and Paul is the owner of Primary Consultants who's helped with several bonds and overrides. For the past 30 years, he's had experience. He's worked with Continental in the past. He helped with Sahuarita and Sunnyside, so he's on the phone as well. So he'll be able to give us some feedback and participate in our discussion and questions that you all may have.
And he helped last time too.
He helped, yes.
Do you want me to do this?
I'll look at this one.
Roxanne,
Yes.
did you want her to use the podium?
Or can I just be right?
You could be right here.
Okay, good. That's just a little more. Yeah. So we put together a short.
Just hold on real quick.
Of course.
Who did you email it to?
I emailed it to Greg.
Okay. So I thought it was already attached. but we'll work on it. So you
Okay.
can just get started
Yeah.
because we all have a copy.
Yep, and we've got some hard copies there.
Yes, so the district has had the maintenance and operation override in place for a number of years. And the last time the district had this type of election was in November 2024 or 2020. And so this type of election is basically you get the full funding for 5 years. And then if there isn't a renewal in place, then it would go down by a third and a third. So the district right now, that M&O override is for 14%. And so any elections that happen this coming November, so November 2024, the first year they would be active would be 25-26, and that's year 5 of your current override. The beauty of that is that when you're, one of the pages in the voter information pamphlet is a comparison of the budget with and without the override. And there will be no difference between the budgets. So if a voter's looking at in 25-26, what's the budget gonna look like? It's gonna be the same because you guys have the full funding. It's year 5. And a lot of districts go out early for that reason. The other reason is you get to use, if you're keeping it at 14%, you get to use continuation language. So the actual ballot question that the voter will see will say continuation override. If the district, if you're doing 15%, or if you were further down in the phase down for the override, it would say budget increase. So that's something to just consider. There's a lot of positive, lots of good results with having that continuation language and renewing the override. So that, I mean, those are the reasons why we're here today. The actual calling of the election wouldn't happen until later in the school year. For Pima County, I believe it would be like in June would be the latest that you would call for the election. So in this time period, you can be working with Paul Ulen to help do polling or doing things like that. If you're thinking about, depending on what you're doing, or if you're wanting to poll the voters, as soon as the election's called, a lot of what the district can do would be general and factual. And a lot of the information I'm gonna share would be general and factual. So the Paul Ulen is kind of the more like working with the committee and things like that. But from our standpoint, we're an extension of the district. And so we're really good with numbers and dotting the I's and crossing the T's and working with bond counsel to make sure that everything's in place and by the book for the election. But that's our big role in it. So yeah, so we're on the next slide is just kind of the information that I shared. So the M&O overrides based on the district's revenue control limit. And so that is going to change every year, and it has changed every year. It's never constant. And so it's a percentage of that revenue control limit. And then the bottom part is information that we'll pull together as we're putting the voter information together. One of the purposes in the voter information pamphlet, you put in what you're gonna use the funds for the first year. And in 2020, it was minimizing class size increases, offsetting state and federal funding reductions, and maintaining school-wide programs. Looking at the next slide, basically for maintenance and operation overrides, it can do salaries, benefits, lots of uses as long as they're within the maintenance and operations of the districts. From a state statute point, the highest that you can go for the percent is 15. So you guys are at 14, 15 is the highest that you can go. Like I said before, this override is good for 7 years, full funding for the first 5. And so districts are always going out again before the phase down starts. In Pima County specifically, 8 of the 16 districts have this M&O override. In Maricopa County, it's a larger percent. And in Pima County, the elections have been very successful the last 2 years. The next slide, we just pulled together some, wordsmithing that other districts are using for the uses of the M&O override. And it's all district driven and personalized for you and your community, but those are just some samples that other districts are using as uses. Any questions at this point? Okay. So the next slide, basically, this is some examples, and the data that we're using is based on this fiscal year, 23-24. The voter information pamphlet will be using data for next year. So we won't have assessed values, and that would include the average home value in your district until February 10th. Around the second week of February, we have those numbers. So right now, the average home in the district, so it's an average, is $199,600. That's a tax value. So it's not what the homes are selling for in the district. So that wouldn't be the average for the home selling in the district. That's a tax value, which is usually significantly lower than the actual what you would sell your home for. What we just did is put together different estimated override amounts. And we're looking out 2 years. So when we're putting numbers in this voter information pamphlet, we're estimating budgets for the school for 25-26 and the override amount for 25-26. Obviously, lots of things are going to change. Like when you're working on your budget, things are going to constantly new information's coming into play. But the job is try to come up with something that we think is reasonable and is somewhat conservative. The idea would be that you wouldn't overestimate that override amount and then it'd come up drastically higher. Obviously, if there's things, if the state decides to give school districts lots and lots more funding, and that's what happens because you underestimated, that's out of your control. But based on the information you have today, we want to just have an estimate that seems reasonable. So we just put together some override estimates with the estimated tax rate and then the impact to the home. And this is all using 23-24 data, so it's gonna slightly change. So the next time we're in front of you, we'll be using 24-25 figures that we'll be using for estimating 25-26. If we were talking about a difference between a 14% and 15%, in that first section, you can see estimated override amount, $560,000. For the average home, that would be $25 a year. If we increased that by 1%, we'd be looking at closer to that $600,000. So it'd be an additional $2 a year to the home, to the average home value. And I know it's like looking at, is that extra 1%, whether it's 60,000 or 100,000, what is that impact going to be for the district each year, as well as like looking at the impact over 5 years? And then is that balancing that, knowing you can use the continuation language with the 14%, but you would be at a smaller amount for your override. So those are the big questions. The rest of the slides are kind of talking about different elections the districts have. We've got a generic timeline. If you go to next slide.
While you're on those dollar numbers,
Yeah.
what's the average that they're paying now? $25, $24 or?
Well, that would be, I think your override amount, I think it was a little less than 560,000. So it would be lower. It would be less than that. And I can look that up and send that to Greg to share with the district on what the average home paid this year. but it would be less than what we're estimating here because we've kind of assumed a higher override amount.
Right, 'cause the
since it's a
average home price
future
is-
year. Yeah, so, but yes, it's less than that. And this is just one piece of a homeowner's tax bill. So I mean, obviously the district has this override, there's a bond, there's, you know, any other jurisdictions that are on their tax bills that would contribute to what they're paying on an annual basis. So just a big picture calendar, spring, just kind of working with the county to let them know that the intention is to consider the election potentially, and then calling the election, and then we'd be working on the voter information pamphlet, and then like early voting is gonna start in October. So that's a big picture. Our firm would be working with the pamphlet and the district to get the information together. Also, Gus Rosenfeld, who is also involved with the bond issue, they would be working with actually putting together the voter information pamphlet. And then they'll be working with the county to make sure that all the election deadlines are met.
Who's that?
Gus Rosenfeld, yeah, Jim Hill, and that's who you guys have used previously in prior elections.
Erica?
Yeah.
Quick question for you. In the voter information packet, if we decide to go 15%, is there wording that can be put in there saying this is a 1% increase
Yes.
over the previously approved override, which would affect
Yes.
your tax bill by $2?
Yes, so there would be in the call for the election statement from the district, we could have, like, talk about the history of the override, and then yes, we could estimate what the difference was for that 1%. Yes, that would be, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much did you get last year?
540.
And Steve's question also was, what does it cost the district to call for the override to, do we have to pay?
We pay the county,
Oh, to the county.
the county, we paid, I believe, $24,000 anytime we do an election, whether it's new board members or a bond override or anything, it was $24,000.
And our firm, we are not charging. And I think if Gus Rosenfeld is charging, if you guys are part of the trust, I think that
They're part of
covers.
our prepaid.
Yes, so that would cover that. Yeah. I mean, since this is an even number year, I mean, you might see a difference. I mean, but you guys last time went on an even year, so it probably, with the pricing, would probably be similar. But yeah, and we can help with the estimates from the county if you'd like.
Paul, did you want to add any other information or share any other
Well,
information?
Sure, and I guess let me clarify a couple things. So the county's gonna charge you, I think in Maricopa County, it's around $240 per registered voter. And because it's a general election, you're gonna share that cost. So it's not gonna be a flat $24,000. It's gonna be based on how many registered voters you have and what the total cost of the election is, then divided by other entities that are also on the ballot. Something to consider, and Erica really hit the nail on the head. The difference between 14 and 15, besides the financial, is it will say, if you go for the 15, it will say budget increase. If you go for the renewal of 14, it will say, budget continuation. And that's worth a couple points or even more at the ballot box because, a continuation versus an increase. So it's going to be a long and contested election. You're going to have high turnout in your area, not because of Continental, but because of the presidential, the Senate, and the congressional race. Those are the issues that are going to drive turnout, plus a couple of the other propositions on the ballot. And if you recall, the district lost its override renewal in 2019, which spurred going out in 20 and the slight reduction to go from 15 to 14. So if you're going to go for the increase, 2024 is the year to do that because that gives you another opportunity to go back in 25 if you are not successful. But it does, it is a risk. And, before you make that decision and you have some time, I would strongly suggest a couple things. One is, as Erica talked about, take a look at your language for the override. And do you need to, do you want to keep it as is? Are there some changes, major changes? Are there some edits to that? And then go out and test that with your voters or likely voters on the survey to help gauge the level of support. Number one, for renewal at the current rate, and then two, at the 15%, again, talking about what that cost is, what the increase is for, for the homeowner, what that increase will be. And you have an opportunity between now and when you call for that election, even after, but really now, communication. So you have the ability to go out and talk to people, provide factual information about the override. Because you have to call for an election, you're not influencing the outcome of the election. But you can explain to people what the override is and what it funds and why it's important and what happens if the override goes away, what those impacts are. So it's just something to think about as you move forward.
Well, and then we still have that extra tax that people might remember about, that we still haven't heard anything from the county about. So we know that they're working on the House bill to resubmit, but I don't know that we will have an answer.
Yeah.
We won't know by the time we call for election.
That's why I think continue is going to be very important instead of increase. Because we already saw an increase. We're already on an increase that didn't benefit our school.
I mean, that's hard. That is hard.
But we didn't get a lot of pushback on that either.
We really didn't.
No, but I think that we might.
Do you know about that? A couple of
I've
weeks?
heard a little bit about.
Paul, when you said that we could poll our voters between now and when we call for election to see where they stand, how does that look?
Yeah.
How does that process work?
Well, can you be a little bit more specific what you're looking for?
So how do you
do it?
survey? How do we do it? You would give us the list of voters, and is it something that the committee goes out, reaches out?
No.
How does that
No,
work?
okay. So, I pull a list of IS-50 voters. I can, I'll explain to that what that, at the time, explain to you and the governing board what that list is and what that list looks like. And when I say look like, meaning age, party, and gender, which you probably have a pretty good idea of what that list looks like before I even start. And then I draft based on getting information from the district. So current override uses, tax impact, how I draft a survey. I get approval on that survey and you test it. And then we go out and, ideally 300 or 400 complete, somewhere between 300 and 400 complete. I do all of that. So you're not doing any of that. And then I compile all that data and come back with initial results and then run cross-tabs, so run questions against each other to help draw some conclusions and make some recommendations to you and the governing board how to proceed.
Got it.
And all the costs that are involved with paying you and the county and all that, the district cannot pay that, right?
No, that's not correct.
Okay.
So that kind of work falls under your feasibility, and that could be paid out of M&O dollars. Paying for the election for the county is your M&O dollars. If there's a political action committee and they want to put up signs, put up Facebook ads, send out direct mail, all of that is on the committee, not on the district. You
Okay,
can't use
that's what I was
district
thinking.
resources for
Okay.
that. Okay?
Yep.
Does that help and clarify that?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Drew, do you have any questions or comments?
At this point, I don't. Did someone say, and I missed it, what the difference between that 1 percentage point makes on the bottom line, money-wise?
I mean, in estimating an override of 560,000, it would be like $2 a year for the average home. I mean, those figures are also gonna change a little bit when we have the 24-25 data, but I think that part of it's gonna depend on the actual override amount. If the override amount is lower, then the impact will be smaller. So.
But you think roughly 50,000 to the district?
It would
I guess
be,
that was my question.
I mean, yeah, it depends on the override amount, but the difference between 14 and 15,000 for 560,000 is like 40,000. But I mean, if the override's growing, then that difference is gonna change. It'll get larger, obviously.
And the override grows because of the.
The revenue control limit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's,
That's the part you'll never get anybody to understand. At least the public that doesn't see it.
But yeah, it's important that this community understands how that 14% is making an impact.
Right.
And then what would that extra 1% potentially do over that 5 years?
So the impact of the additional 1%, 50%.
Yeah, I
may
think-
look like $40,000, let's say.
Over 5 years, that'd be, $200,000.
Right, in 5 years, which would essentially buy us a teacher, an extra teacher for
Each year, for 5
each
years.
year for 5 years with that plan.
So,
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Which seems significant. I mean, when you put them in terms like that, for only an extra $2 a month out of each household. But if that $2 came with a continuing, I mean, the voters are gonna see that they're just continuing.
That wasn't
No
$2 a
change.
month, that was $2 a year.
$2
A year.
A year, sorry, a year, yeah,
A
sorry,
year.
a year. That doesn't seem like much. I mean, I.
It
vote for
isn't,
but-
yeah.
And that's where we'd have to
it
educate,
is,
Uh-huh.
yes.
you know, our
Yes.
community
We'd have to
members that
figure
we're
So it
getting.
has to say on the ballot, increase.
It does,
It would have to
even
say-
just 1%, unfortunately.
But we would have the verbiage on the pamphlet.
Yes,
which
in the
states
fall
that-
election,
Yeah.
you can share.
But just remember, that ballot is gonna say increase.
It
It doesn't
is.
matter whether you're
They
asking
read it or
for
not.
Yes.
1% or 1 penny, it's gonna say increase.
And that's my
Yeah,
only
keep it school,
issue
read
in a potential down economic turn, even if it's slight. That language makes a difference, maybe, potentially. I don't know.
I mean, it,
Potentially it does, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my fear too.
Paul, did you have any work in ones, in overrides that passed that said increase? Or were they all continuations?
Sunnyside passed the new capital override, the new DAA, and a new M&O override. They did not have either one in place.
it's been
They both
years
passed.
since they've had.
Now, their demographics are a little different than yours,
Yeah.
so that's just something to think about. I mean, the hard part of it is it's not a lot of money and it's easy. I mean, that 1% doesn't impact me as a property owner that much. But it's a big deal when you're asking for it, when you have your hand out. And it's almost like you need to take, for some districts that we've done this, and Erica's been involved in over a number of years, where prior to going for 15%, districts have a 5 and a 10, and then you could combine them. They passed legislation to allow that in some districts because the 5% was based on your K-8 enrollment, not your K-12 enrollment. To go for the full 15 was an increase. Some districts did, okay, I'm gonna go this time for a continuation, and then I'm gonna go out and ask for the additional amount. You just have to make that leap of faith to go out and do that. Take the hit once, and then all you're doing is a continuation every time thereafter. But it is you have some time, which is good, to go out and do some fact finding and get some information. Cause it's a big deal. And I think the biggest potential is what else is gonna be on the ballot. Is there a aggregate expenditure limit? Is Pima County gonna be asking for money? Is the, JTED, CTED gonna be asking for money? Are they gonna compete with other jurisdictions with their handout? How much does that come into play? So it's not just you, it's what else is gonna be on the ballot. And remember, it is gonna be a very, very contentious election. Now, we were successful in 2020, but we also used continuation language.
I made part of the discussion a couple of minutes ago. You said 24,000, but that cost is split over how many different parties need the elections?
Well, I apologize, I don't have the counts right in front of me. It's usually based on a per registered voter count, and typically because it's a general election, and these are my words, you're not paying the full freight of the election. You're gonna share that cost with other jurisdictions. But if if you paid 24 in 2020, you're probably gonna pay a little bit more because you've had, I believe, a slight increase in registered voters, and those costs have gone up. But, you'd also look at what those costs were in 2019 when it was an all-mail election. And I know you split those costs with Pima County, because Pima County went out with their 4 or 5 bond questions, which is one of the reasons why you were unsuccessful, I believe, in 2019. But whatever that cost is, I mean, that regardless of whether it's 20, 24, or 30, or $40,000, you're going to bear that cost going out to your election period. You will have that. And if you go in 25, you might be paying slightly more because you might be the only jurisdiction going out.
Great, we have that money?
It will be there. I mean, I don't budget for elections in non-election years, so like this year, I've got nothing sitting in the budget for elections. But next year, there would be running.
Any questions from those of you in the audience? Questions, concerns, feedback? No?
So I just kind of want to throw this out there. I know that during a major election like the one that's coming up that we're looking at, 15% is a risk, but it's our time to take that shot. Because if we come back the following year asking for the 15% again, it could fail and we can start going into the decline of our, so we would have options depending on how this coming election looks. If it fails, well, the following year, we just go back for the continuation of 14.
Can we use that verbiage next year then?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
because the comparison will show a third
I mean,
difference
does that
in
make
the
sense?
budget,
Yeah, that
but you
sounds-
could
yeah,
still use the
that's-
continuation
yeah.
language in 25.
And that wouldn't be a contentious election then either. 'cause it's
Correct.
your- Yeah.
And what would you guys use that for, that 1%?
What were
I mean, have you guys thought about when you guys are gonna use this money?
Well, as a board and as a school, we keep talking about gifted ed. We don't have a gifted ed teacher right now. We have Mrs. Cuevas and Miss Romanelli trying to service our gifted kids.
Our teachers didn't
We,
get an increase this year either.
right, raises for
And our
teachers.
teachers didn't get an increase, and I mean, adding a teacher or increasing salaries, either one of those would be $200,000.
I don't
I mean, but either
remember.
way, I mean, you need both of those things. I mean,
I get both arguments. The one thing to keep in mind, if we lost the 15, it's a lot of work for especially the local
For
PAC.
the pack, it's
For
a
the
lot
PAC,
of work.
because Ruth and I have been on it. I think you were on it before too.
I was barely on.
Yeah, so to do that 2 years in a row, get
It's a
the
lot
same
of
volunteer
undertaking.
and the
And
fundraising,
money, the money.
and the money's the hardest.
Yes, we have to raise, yeah.
Is, yeah, to get,
And who did you guys
Donations.
get the donations from?
Different people.
Yeah.
The same people that donate for the foundation.
but I
The same
totally
people
get
that
Greg's
donate
point.
for
We're not deciding today anyway.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I mean,
But
yeah,
I think it's
yeah,
a-
this
It's
is,
When do
yeah.
we need-
Really
when do
good
we-
insight.
When do we need to have our decision made by? Our game plan going? March, or is that what you said?
Yeah.
March?
I want to say that Pima County requires the notifications of elections for November, July.
Yeah,
June.
there would be some time, and even,
Probably June, realistically.
But that would
Yeah.
be when we would call and we'd no
Yes.
longer be able to have discussions as a board like this.
yes, the rules change as soon as you call for the election. And the district ends up not being able to use resources and
Right.
everything's general and factual. But yes, in this feasibility discovery period, there's,
There's leniency.
yes.
Do we kind of know who would be on the committee? Because obviously it can't be us.
Well, no, that's another thing, is we would need to work with our parent advisory members. We've talked about, right now, we're in the process of switching over the person that's a signer on the account for the PAC. So we can start to look at starting to fundraise, but that's, the next step is trying to form a committee
I'm sure that was changed. Wasn't that changed?
from,
You're still on.
I am?
Not whoever it was before you.
No,
no,
I was on it
no,
for.
so, no, we switched
Okay,
it,
so
so we
that would
have
be-
somebody, right now, they're in the process of switching over the account to one of our parent advisory
Okay.
parents.
Wait, and it wasn't switched from her to anybody?
Yes, it was,
Okay,
because we had, Ms. Quinoa
okay,
is the signer, she just filed right now, but, Karina Mata's gonna take over the account.
okay.
So they just need to meet, and then we can start forming our committee.
I know, that's what I was worried about.
You guys aren't late, by the way, we're just having a discussion for the budget override. And feel free to help yourself to some pizza in the back.
Yes, have pizza, and you can see Mrs. Cuevas, so check in with her, okay?
I'm almost ready.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we will have to,
Yeah,
have a special meeting to decide what we want to do between now and.
Yeah, and I'm happy to provide Paul, if you guys are doing a survey, whatever information that you need, or, want to be a resource. And that's,
Perfect. Okay. Hey, Paul, anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, so we'll let you both know when we plan to have our study session for our final decision,
Perfect, perfect.
okay?
Okay,
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Erica, appreciate it. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
thank you. Bye-bye.
We'll be in touch, thanks, bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Are we allowed to get with the committee? Who selects the you? No, they have to.
We, the chair, we have to get a chairperson that goes out and.
It's concerned parents that want to make sure this override passes.
So that's why I was hoping that we had some of our parent advisory parents. Yeah.
One, I think these are not
Yeah, so typically our parent advisory parents will help us start to form the committee. And we can let our foundation know, so we can get some help.
So we'll have a recess until 6.
Thank you.
come out of our recess and start the meeting again. So we'll go right to, for those of you following along, we're on item 5, call to the public. Anybody on the phone?
Do we have anyone on the line for calls to the audience, to the public? I don't think so.
We don't have any. And next is approval of the agenda, which we've already started. So we need a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the action agenda.
I second.
Any discussion on the agenda?
Mrs. Lefever?
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas?
Yes.
Mr. McGivern?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
She's not.
Mr. Osterling?
Yes. Thank you. Next is to approve the minutes from last meeting, which was January 16th. No,
December 12th.
December 12th.
Yeah.
It's
That's today.
16th today.
I move to approve the meeting minutes of December 12th, 2020.
I'll second.
Mrs. Lefever?
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas?
Yes.
Mr. McGivern?
Yes.
Mr. Osterling?
Yes. So with that, we will have Ms. Rico's presentation, and then we'll get to the good stuff for you guys. And again, we have pizza for everybody in the back.
Good evening, newly re-elected board president, Mr. Osterly. Thank you for being here, members of the board and the community and staff, and our amazing Colt students. Thank you for being here today. Happy New Year 2024, right? We have to all get used to writing 2024 now. Time is flying by. Again, you see our mission and our vision statement. Our most important thing here, our vision statement, is building for the future, learning, cooperating, and caring for all, which is what we work on every single day. Climate survey update. Thank you, parents and staff and students, for taking your surveys. We have currently 158 parents have responded, and last year we only had 92, so thank you in our call to get our parents to respond. I really do think that thanks to the parent advisory group and deciding to cut down all the questions, we really did narrow down our questions to, I believe there's 10 for parents. So you see numbers. We will close the survey at the end of the month, January 31st. So again, thank you all for taking the time to respond to the surveys, because we really do take the surveys very serious. And as we started going through with the parent advisory group, we had addressed a lot of the comments, and the questions were there for a reason, because we knew that there were things that we needed to work on, and we were happy to be able to say that we had addressed them and rectified a lot of the things that parents were, solutions and problems that parents were having. So thank you. Just a reminder, Green Team recycling reminder, we are really going to work this semester to get our recycling efforts back on track. So we are recycling in the classrooms, aluminum, paper, and plastic. We are working on campus beautification for this semester as well. And we are taking small steps to get our greenhouse up and running. So if any of you have any expertise in any of those areas in terms of recycling and helping us with the greenhouse, we have some parents and community members that are committed to helping us in working with Mrs. Cuevas and Mr. Nathan and our garden club to get it going. Lots of great ideas. Thank you, our middle school parents, teachers, and students, for your patience in terms of the problems that we have been having in the middle school. Cummings Plumbing was here on Friday. We have NewFlow on campus today, and they are still here trying to look at the cleanouts to see what the problem is. And just a little information, middle school building was constructed in 1983. And we are working really hard to keep the building up to par, and everybody keeps saying it's so old. I graduated from high school in 1985, and I really don't feel that old. Not really falling apart, so, but we are working with HVAC problems, electricity and plumbing it's been a challenge, but we are committed to making sure that we keep our facilities running and looking nice. We know, especially in the middle school, when we have sports and we have other schools coming in and other parents coming in, we really do want our parents and our kids to be proud of what our community sees. So we are working really hard to make sure that we rectify some of the middle school challenges right now. Mr. Schubert continues to work with the School Facilities Board to ensure the funding is available to fix the problems. So the state is aware, and it's to fix some of these major problems with the plumbing. We do have state aid to help us, so it's not coming out of our general budget. So thank you, Mr. Schubert, for keeping SFB in mind to help us make sure we can get these projects done. We are showcasing, as I mentioned, we do have lower class sizes in kinder, first and second grade. And of course, we value low class sizes. And when we say we have in the primary classes, 14 to 16 students in a classroom. In second through fourth, we have 24, 25. Those are still very low compared to state averages. But as you know, students equals income to our school. And so we were not able to give teachers raises this year. 80% of our funding goes towards salaries for staff. So the only way we can increase our funding is by increasing the number of students, right? Because we get a certain amount of money per student. So we are excited to have a continental showcase for future kinder, first and second graders. So you'll see the dates. Tuesday, the 23rd, we have showcases 3 scheduled, so please share with your friends. Thursday, the 25th, we're going to have another showcase tour of the school, letting them know what curriculum we're using, letting them know what we offer for club sports and tutorials. We are currently also exploring an option of possibly having our open enrollment kids transported, whether they meet at the Sahuarita Park for transportation, or we look at another location, because typically the open enrollment policy states that schools do not have to transport students. So we're gonna check and see what, who shows up to our showcases and who's interested, and then make some decisions as to whether we really want to offer transportation for the open enrollment students that are coming in. We are also planning Kinder Roundup at the end of February, so please let your friends, neighbors know if they have students that are ready to be incoming kindergartners to be on the lookout for Kinder Roundup. Tax credit, again, and White Elephant support. And I mentioned last month that we sent out 350 tax credit letters, went out with the invitations to our Sweetheart Gala, and we received 61 tax credit donations as we sent those out prior to winter break. We continue to be extremely grateful to all of our tax credit donors for their support of civics, clubs, sports, and tutorials, because our tax credit funds sustains all of those entities that we have. So every donation counts. So please get your tax credit donations in. It's $200 per person or $400 per family, married couple, and it is dollar to dollar. So whatever you give, the state will take it off on your taxes. So it is pretty much free money. You can get a receipt from us, claim it on your taxes, and you'll get it right back on your refund.
And you can still donate this year, today, for last year's taxes,
Yes.
correct? When is that deadline for that?
Tax.
April 15th?
So if you donate now, it can be for next year's taxes or this current taxes. Okay, so thank you. And just another reminder that our Sweetheart Gala is Saturday, February 10th, and we hope that parents will join us. We do have our jazz band that's going to be performing. So usually our jazz parents are the ones that come to join us, and orchestra. So hopefully you can come out. It's going to be at the historic Kanoa, is it Ranch? Is it called the historic Kanoa Ranch? New locations, we're excited for that.
So I thought I saw somewhere that they had a 2 for 1 tickets or something. Is that right?
Yeah, Foco.
Yeah, or was I imagining?
No,
that
came out today.
Okay, so please support this good cause.
Yes, because as we mentioned, it goes for mini grants for teachers. So our teachers, if they have special projects or special needs, they just have to submit it to the foundation, and the foundation will reimburse teachers for classroom supplies, books, any special projects that they want to have offered in class. So again, it is time to set new goals and to go and get them. And this semester, our goal is going to be to work diligently to close the achievement gap and make sure our students are prepared and not stressed out for state assessment so they can get ready to show what they know and what they've learned all year. So thank you very much.
So with that is our special recognition. We would like to recognize our Eagle Scouts.
Logan, can you go to the
Hi, my name is Logan Descamps. I'm a Boy Scout for BSA 2365. And over the course of 3 days, I recently completed my Eagle Scout project, which was to basically replace the decomposed gravel and granite that was right next to the playground, because when it would rain, it would become very muddy and nobody could play basketball. And it's very hard playing basketball on such a like bad surface. And so the project was to basically just replace that with concrete. So the plan was to remove the existing decomposed granite, refurbish the basketball hoops, and pour the cement. So the very first day was the preparation day, and so boys from my troop came down and helped me dig out the 4 to 6 inches around the perimeter of the areas that the Bobcat that Mr. McGibbon came and operated so that we could dig out the rest of the area. And so, unfortunately, and ironically, the second day it rained. And so it was very cold, but we still got the job done, and we still managed to dig out the 4 to 6 inches and refurbish the basketball field. So here's just some more pictures of. And so on the last and third day, unfortunately, due to scheduling issues, the original date couldn't work out because of the recent holiday. Because originally it was supposed to be December 23rd, but we had to push it back because of Christmas and other holidays. So it ended up taking place a week after December 27th, but it worked out in the end because it gave the area to kind of like dry off from the rain that it just received. And so the cement was donated by Remus Materials, all 11 yards of it, which was a lot of concrete. It was about $2,000 worth of concrete. So I'm very grateful for them that they could donate the cement to the school. And it came in 2 trucks because of how much there was. And Robert Housley and Glenn Bear also helped me with this project. Robert Housley came down and helped finish the cement, and Glenn Bear donated some of his staff's time to come down and help with the cement pool. And so this is kind of the 3rd/4th unofficial day because of the sun wouldn't really come out and dry the concrete, so we had to wait a while for it to dry, and then Mr. Housley in the middle use power trowel to kind of level out the concrete, and the rest of the is stuff finished and good on the. So here's the before and after picture. And my family donated a plaque to be put into this event, kind of in the corner, just basically dedicating it to Mr. Ben, who passed away, and it's there.
Like to personally thank you too for your idea, your hard work. I mean, when you see in the pictures, it truly takes a village to get things done around here. And you can see, you know, Logan's mom, Mrs. Descamps, works here on campus, and she's done so much for us in our art club, in working with one-on-one students and subbing and doing whatever we need her to do. And your dad as well. And I mean, these Eagle Scout projects that these students have done are just amazing. I mean, we have our brick plaza in the front. The original one was part of the shed that's outside, that's out by our track. And this one definitely beautifies our campus. And I really want to give a shout out to Mr. Nathan, because Mr. Nathan is out here, rain or shine, 24/7. Mr. McGibbon, who's our board member, and the years and time and blood, sweat, and tears that he's put into our campus and running Bobcats. And the day that it was raining, I was taking pictures of them through the window. I'm like, you're all gonna get sick. What are you doing? And Mrs. Descamps did get sick, but it's just, I mean, just thank you for your hard work and your dedication and your stick-with-itness to get it done and to make a difference on our campus. Because you're right, once a cult, always a cult. So thank you. You guys are awesome.
If I can just add to that one little bit, because I don't think we've done this part enough justice, but being an Eagle Scout myself and working with these boys over the years, behind every Eagle Scout is amazing parents. And you saw those people there every single day. The Des Camps fed them for their service, so they provided lunch to them and just cared for them. On the rainy day, we were all borderline hypothermia, brought us in, warmed us up, fed us food before we had to go out and finish because it had to be done before the next phase. And Logan's an amazing young man, but it's only because of his parents who have really instilled those characteristics in him and supported him 100% of the way. So thank you, parents, for raising a young man that is worthy of being able to receive such an honor as Eagle Scout. So thank you to you guys.
So with that, it is time for call for the month. Right.
Thank you. I'd also like to say thank you to Logan and Jessica. The kids are enjoying the area already, and I know Mr. Ben's wife was honored that he would do something so special in his memory. So she's looking forward to coming out and seeing it. Thank you. And I just want to say, the building built in 1983. 1983 is not good. How many of you are with me on that? Not okay. And then in the back, before you walk out, if you could take one or two and kind of give them to friends in the community for our showcase next week. Put them on your cars, tape them all around. All right. If we could ask our amazing Cult of the Month students to come up, and then we're going to line you up preschool all the way through middle school. and bring your certificates with you. Parents, please do not hesitate to come up, take video recordings, pictures of them, and then make sure to head to the back table so you can pick out the shirt size for them afterwards, okay?
We really need to have this conversation. Well, yeah, I could.
All right, our first student is So Kevin is in preschool, and Dr. Felicia Robinson wrote, Kevin is always willing to help his peers and teachers and is patient with others. He has a happy and outgoing disposition. He works diligently to complete IXL in Clever. Kevin is an excellent student, and we're excited that he's part of Continental Preschool. Congratulations.
My name is Bernie.
Mrs. Tesso says, Bernie is always helping her friends out in any situation. Bernie is a hard worker and tries everything kindergarten throws at her. She's grown tremendously and is excelling. I'm so proud of her. Congratulations, Mrs. Tesso. Tatiana. Mrs. Salisbury writes, Tatiana is one of the sweetest, most kind girls in our class. She always has a smile on her face and her heart is made of gold. Tatiana goes above and beyond the expectations in the classroom. There have been countless times where Tatiana will go out of her way to help others. She's very motivated, kindergartner, and a kind human in every way. I'm happy that I get to be your teacher and watch you grow and learn this year. I'm so proud. Congratulations. Mrs. Higuera writes, Priscilla is such a wonderful student. She comes to school prepared. She follows the classroom rules as well as the school rules. She helps others when needed. She picks up after herself as well as others and makes sure the classroom's nice and tidy. She comes to class every day ready to take on any challenge. Priscilla is a determined and hardworking young lady. She's a pleasure to have in class. Congratulations.
My name is Janae.
Mrs. Rodriguez writes, Janae is a superstar, first grade student. We're so glad to have her in our class. She's kind and friendly to all students and staff. Janae has a lovely personality and takes time to help others. She uses all school equipment and classroom supplies appropriately. She's responsible because she works hard, follows directions, finishes her work on time, and comes to school every day ready to learn with a smile. Keep up the amazing job, Janae. Congratulations.
My name is Ramses.
Miss Manish writes, Ramses is Colt of the Month for December. He's filled with happiness and a desire to learn. His kindness comes through his smile and his ability to make others smile and laugh. In the classroom, he's responsible for himself, his actions, and his schoolwork. Keep on shining, Ramses. Congratulations.
My name is Marco.
All right. Miss Mills writes, Marco is such a sweet young man. He's always working hard to make sure that he gets good grades. He's kind to me and all the students in our classroom. Marco brings his homework in and makes sure to get all of his work done. Marco is a star student. Congratulations.
My name is Pablo.
Mrs. Nolan writes, Pablo demonstrates being friendly every day and is always considerate to others. He goes above and beyond to be kind to his classmates. I look forward to seeing Pablo's smile and happy self every day in class. Congratulations. All right. Mrs. Adams writes, Eva is an important member of our classroom community. She always has a smile on her face. I can count on Eva to treat her classmates with respect. She's fun, a good example, and a hard worker. These are all important attributes that will help Eva be successful in all her future goals. Keep working hard, Eva.
My name is Rustin.
And this comes from all middle school teachers. Rustin always follows school rules. He also takes pride in our campus. He can often be seen picking up a piece of trash and throwing it away if he walks by it. Rustin is highly respected by his peers and teachers as well. He always does the right thing, and this rubs off on those around him. We middle school teachers will surely miss him next year as he makes the entire middle school building a better place. Congratulations. And congratulations to all of you amazing parents for have all our colts come up here for a picture, and then if they can remain here while we do our Golden Horseshoe Awards for 2 staff members. Yeah.
Okay, so parents, if you want to come closer, take pictures of the whole group, you can do that at this time. Hold on, we got one more.
One more.
We got one more.
Count of 3, say Colts. 1, 2, 3.
Colts.
And stay there.
Stay there.
Don't move.
So you're gonna help us do something really special. All right. Sure. So every month, just like a lot of places have Employee of the Month, here at Continental School, we have the Golden Horseshoe Award. A couple years ago, the admin team picked that, but recently this year, it's nominated by their peers. So the teachers all decide, and the staff members, from bus drivers, custodians, playground monitors, teachers, everyone picks in to decide who our people are. And so what we're going to give you is not necessarily our word as administration, but what their peers think about the 2 employees that were selected to be the Golden Horseshoe Award winners this month.
And our first is Mrs. Jenna Rojas. And your colleagues write and said, these are their messages to you. Last year, Mrs. Jenna Rojas took on a new role in accounts payable and has been so wonderful to work with. We miss having her smiling face in the front office, but it's been great to see her in the business office. So these are different, all put together. Anytime that we have questions or need some assistance, Mrs. Rojas is always willing to help and does it with such kindness. She's also been one of the DC sponsors for the past 2 years and has done an amazing job. Mrs. Rojas helps keep everyone organized and is always helpful with a smile. She's beyond helpful with anything that is needed. She's kind and always has a smile on her face. She's always willing to help whenever and wherever she's needed. She's made working with the business office easy. Thank you, Mrs. Rojas, for being awesome, and thank you, Jenna, for always being such a great help and wonderful coworker. And our next one is, that was nominated recipient, is Mrs. Megan Higuera. And your colleagues, our colleagues, right? Mrs. Megan Higuera is always kind to everyone. She's patient and loving with all the students and works well with them. She shows compassion, is very helpful, and is always trying to learn new things. Last year, Mrs. Higuera really jumped right into teaching first grade. Her kiddos were so excited to learn, and this year her class is just as happy and excited. Mrs. Higuera shows so much kindness and patience to her students. She greets them and other staff members with a smile every day. Mrs. Higuera is reliable, helpful, and kind. Even under pressure, she always smiles, always has high spirits, and has the patience of an angel. We're so very lucky to have Mrs. Higuera on our whole team.
Before our final picture, so don't go away. This month is National Board Recognition Month, and the Pima County Superintendent's Office is going to be getting a proclamation passed and adopted that says School Board Recognition Month urges all citizens to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members and in working with them to mold an education system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's students. So I would like our governing board members to please come on up and bring your little goodies for the month, your appreciation gift or picture that we'll put on our website. So thank you. Can we give them a round of applause? And just so you know, boys and girls and parents, our governing board members are elected officials and they do not get paid to come every month and to care about our school and the decisions that we make and to support all of our students and staff. So thank you all very, very much. And we'll get a group. You can put in with the kids. So while you're here, for your kids, the kids and the staff, so there you go. This is gonna go on our website, okay? Smile pretty. Ready? Everybody say Colts. Colts. All right, thank you very, very much.
Well, with that, thank you all for coming. Come back and visit again. You're welcome to stay. See how the board runs. If not, we'll see you next time. So with that, we'll take 2 minutes of see you. All right. No, I see. Oh, you're my favorite person.
Drew, are you still with us?
Oh, okay.
Okay, how you doing? Okay, good. We're about to get started.
So with that, we'll move on to item 10, the consent agenda, which is a motion item, as you all know. Actually. Do we have a motion on the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to, for the resignations of Matthew.
No, we just, you did a whole
Oh, to
consent
approve.
agenda in general.
Oh, to approve the consent agenda, sorry. And then I make a motion.
Second.
So just so you know what we've done in the past, you can ask to adjust the agenda. If you wanted, let's just say item A, pulled out to be its own. We can do that. It's too late now.
Okay.
In the
Thank you.
future, that's- But now we can discuss all the, that's why I waited.
Any discussion?
No.
All right, no discussion, so, we'll go.
Mrs. Lefever,
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas,
Yes.
Mr. McGivern,
Yes.
Mr. Osterhage.
And I'm a yes. And that takes us to new business, which,
Report item. No, yeah, there's no new business.
right, which takes us to the exciting district financial.
Well, as we all know, there's nothing more exciting than the district financial report. As always, it's within your packets. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer anything that you may have on the district finance report.
It is blurry here, so. it's gonna-
Saying maybe I'm just tired. I don't have anything. So this is a motion item.
Yes, I move to approve the district financial report.
I'll second. Any discussion? I guess we've kind of discussed that before.
Discussion?
Mrs. LaFever?
Yes.
Mrs. Amarillas?
Yes.
Mr. McGivern?
Yes.
Mr. Azarine?
Yes. And I think that's the end of the voting today. Next is our events. See, we're pretty full between here and the end of February.
So one thing I'd like to point out is we are planning our annual, this would be our third annual 2024 New Year staff kickoff in our gymnasium. If you know of any great public motivational speakers that can come speak to our teachers and our staff for 10 to 15 minutes, please let us know. We did have some leads and we just had to, what do we say, like denials. They could make the
Yeah.
date. But if we don't have a motivational speaker, then it looks like my leadership team, we're gonna be doing an awesome skit to motivate parents, and our staff. So just if you have any leads on anybody that you feel would be a good person, we're really just looking at someone that can just cheer on our teachers for the new year, to stay true to our goals, to our plans, and to execute so that we can have a good second semester in 2024. So parents, I see our wonderful parent advisory parents here, so if you have any leads, please give us a call so we can see who we can get to come on over. Okay, and there's just a lot of events that are happening. We have our honors assemblies on January 26th on Friday. So we're hoping that parents will be here as well to recognize our students, and board members, please, if you plan to attend, let us know as well.
And with that, item 13, any discussion? We'll start down with item 14. Laura, do you have any words of wisdom?
No.
Pass.
Great job, Mr. President.
Thanks for the encouragement.
I almost
I think they left or they're milling around outside. I wanted to thank for the Rangers that visited us today. I believe we're going to see them on a regular basis. It doesn't mean we have a heightened sense of security. But they approached us and asked if they could attend and help, do their Ranger thing, and I think it's a great thing. Luckily, we've been lucky and haven't had any of the shenanigans that some of the other local school districts have. Because I know back then I tried to hire the sheriff's department to come, and they didn't have anybody available to, one, send on their dollar, two, on our dollar. You're just in time, we're just talking about it.
We're thanking our Arizona Rangers.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's one of our favorite duties.
All right, good.
Okay. Yep. All right, with that, we have a little paperwork, I assume?
Are you all parent advisory? Right there. I know a couple of you, but I didn't.
You did read these.
They repeaters or repeaters?
So parents, at this time, we adjourn for them to sign papers, but Nayeli's gonna give you a little form to sign. Okay, so that when Title I audits come around, we have your signature. And I know that we also were talking about trying to get members from our parent advisory to help, and be a part of our override committee in discussing our override that we want to put on the November elections. Okay, so I'll send out an email with more information on that.
And if you want any info about doing that, Ruth and I have been on it for years. And we're not allowed to be on the list.
Yeah.
Yes, board members, you're not allowed.
What's the school board one?
It's a school one. Just sign a check. It's a check. Sign a check. Aren't you glad we don't do one for each check?
There's, Steve went out there and checked.
Can't believe they still use these old forms.
I know. New silver asking. Yeah.
They were last in the boys' locker room.
How many signatures do we need to do?
Three.
So we have,
And if we did it, would they have to? like,
somebody'd have to come in.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're supposed to say these, right?
Yes. Nayeli,
Yes.
thank you.
My contribution.
Good job. Thanks.
They're done. With that, we are adjourned to quarter till. Just like that.